ring if you're ready to care. Oh, let's talk power, let's talk speed. Hosted by the one and only WeTooDeep. Turn it up loud, feel the power in your seed. This is slapping meat, yes, slapping meat. From suplex dreams to championship gold, stories untold and action so bold. The match shakes fury and fire within. We're breaking it down, let the podcast begin. Oh, let's talk power, let's talk speed. Hosted by the one and only WeTooDeep. Turn it up loud, feel the power in your seed. This is slapping meat, yeah, slapping meat. Takes and debates flying through the air. Turnbuckles pounding with passion and flair. Grab your earbuds, it's a front row ride. Step into the chaos where we collide. Oh, let's talk power, let's talk speed. Hosted by the one and only WeTooDeep. Turn up loud, feel the power in your seed. This is slapping meat, yes, slapping meat. Slapping meat.
And what is good, everybody? It is your boy, WeTooDeep, and we are back with another episode of the Slappin' Meat Wrestling Podcast, episode 299. And we got a big show for you as we head into what might be a wrestling event this weekend that many fans in the pro wrestling game are gonna sleep on, right? You'll get your wrestling fans that watch everything who tune into it, but if you're not anticipating watching TNA Slammiversary this weekend, I would suggest that you go and pay attention to it. Pay I think it's $40 for this. This is worth it, right? $40 will be worth it on Sunday night to watch this event. 100% believe it will be worth it. We got some new matches added to the card. It looks like well, by new I mean one. So one new match added to the card that wasn't already in the predictions. So I'll add that to the prediction list for you guys to predict, and it's an 8-man tag. We'll get to predictions down the line, but that is what a majority of this show will be, is predicting Slammiversary. That's going to be the centerpiece of this episode. Before that, we got a couple things to discuss in our opening thoughts. We'll do a deep 5 where I will talk about who I believe are the top 5 women in pro wrestling coming off of Evolution, the all-women's event. We'll do some questions from the Discord, because this will be the last episode until August the 1st. We'll get about a week, 2 weeks of a break, and do episode 300 when we return on August 1st to predict Summer Slam. And then we'll do some final thoughts at the very end as well. So let's let's stop with the introduction. Let's dive on in. And we're going to start spicy. We're going to start spicy right now, right? So it appears that over the last week or so in the wrestling discussion, I got little birdies talking to me. I got some sources that are talking to me. And I also have the ability to watch other podcasts. And it amazes me how we have now casual fans, right? We all know that I used to support being a casual fan. And here's one thing, right? Because we're gonna do a segment real quick on casuals. We're gonna follow that up with a segment on the sickos, right? And here's what I find. Both of those groups, right, are the far extremes of the wrestling world. And what I find is just like in politics, the extremes are the outside 10%. 5% are casual, 5% are sicko, right? But 90% of the wrestling fan base, 90% of the IWC who participates in the wrestling discussion, because this might be a hot take. This might be the first hot take. If you are not if you don't want to consider yourself the IWC, but you participate in the conversation online, whether it's in podcast form, on Twitter, on Discord, if you voice your opinion, you are the IWC. Casual, sicko, whatever, right? Both of those extremes have wild takes. They view the product in a wildly weird way, right? Where the casuals are super, we just want, good storytelling. We don't care about the matches, which is closer to my perspective. I think the matches are important. They're an important plot device. Absolutely. And then you get the sickos who, right? But a lot of times what you'll notice is the casuals are the WWE dick riders, and the sickos are the Tony Khan AEW dick riders. And then you have 90% of the people who participate in pro wrestling discussion online in the IWC are just normal people like you, like me, who maybe have their favorites, but they're not the weird ones. But the problem is the weird ones, the extremes, are the voices that get the attention for two reasons. One, they're the loudest. But second, they say the most outlandish things. And a lot of the normies haven't figured out that they say these things for you to respond to them. And so I'm going to respond to them because I think they both need to be responded to. So let's discuss the casuals first, right? It appears to me that some in the casuals, right, in the casual fan base, who, people that I've used to, would consider, still even to this day, would consider friends, right, in this game, are now, but used to clown me on some of my takes, right? At the beginning of the year, I was saying some things like, Jey Uso's not it. I was saying some things like, Rhea Ripley's overexposed. I was saying some things like, yo, Solo Sikoa is him. And I was getting clowned. Nah, Jay is it. Jay is the guy. No, Rhea Ripley's the best in the business. No, Solo Sikoa's, he lacks charisma. is what would be responded to me. And now, 7 months into the 6.5 actually months into the year, they're posting on their shows and on their Twitters the same exact takes I was saying back in December. So let's talk about Solo, because that's the main one. Solo's some of these people's new favorite wrestlers. This newfound love for Solo Sikoa that WeTooDeep recognized back in December of 2023. Go back to December 2023, the last episode of 2023, the year-end review of 2023. Every single year that I do a year-end review, I always give 3 men, 3 women that I think over the next year will be, we think are going to be over. And in December of 2023, I told you that the year 2024 was going to be the year of Solo Sikoa. Now, it started slow. Roman lost the title. Solo took over. Now, Solo's booking between April and whenever Roman came back was very, very slow. Because there was no purpose. And a lot of that, I'm be honest with you, I'm going to put that on Roman. We'll discuss Roman here, his return as well, right? Because I got some takes on Roman coming back. But we'll talk about that in a minute. But Solo's booking between them was partially booking issue. It wasn't Solo's fault. Right? But then he started getting into this new bloodline. Jacob showed up. Tongan showed up. And he started hitting. And he started hitting. And he started hitting. And now people are on people on the Solo Sikoa train. But I've been on that train since he was in NXT. Since he showed up barefoot in NXT, I was on the Solo Sikoa train. And now we got people jumping on here like he's the greatest thing ever. And I'm not saying you can't change your mind on who your favorite wrestler is. I do it all the time. But it's crazy after so much. These same people who were shitting on Solo. Solo sucks. He's just a background character. He has no charisma. They clearly did not understand what WWE was doing. And I gotta take a pause back for a second. I gotta talk about me for a minute. I gotta come out and I gotta say something. For as much as I've shit on Triple H and his booking, especially around the bloodline, 100%, I think once he had Roman lose the title, he started off slow. I don't think he really knew what to do after that moment. He was booking for the moment. And we see this a lot with Triple H's booking, is he books for the moment with no clear picture on where he's going after the moment is achieved. But once he has that vision on where he wants to go, right? And so the booking post-Roman, a lot of that was because Roman was gone. If Roman didn't need to take a vacation every summer, I think we would have pushed the story a little bit quicker to where Roman loses, Solo turns, and the bloodline stuff sort of happens quicker than it did. But so a lot of that is Triple H's fault. But once Triple H started getting this thing cooking with Solo and Jacob and the Tongans, and now with JC Mateo and Tala Tonga, Triple H is cooking with the bloodline again. Right, so back to these casual fans who shat on Solo Sikoa for a year and a half. Oh, he's just a background. He doesn't know what he's doing. He's not there. He's not ready. He's not. No. Everyone who watched Solo in NXT knew that Solo was ready. And it should have understood what was going on. You had to put Solo as the background guy, because that was Roman's enforcer. Right? So you then had to have Jay and Jimmy turn. You then had to have Solo get the blame for a lot of Roman's mistakes and the bloodline seemingly being disorganized. Someone had to take the blame other than Roman, so it went on Solo. And then Solo's the last remaining soldier, and Roman loses the title, and the bloodline don't lose. And so all of the treatment Solo got, just being the background character, never being able to speak, always being disrespected by Roman, was all part of the story to get to the point to where he would turn. And now he's cooking. Solo, and I say this, Solo is the best version of Tribal Chief, right? I know we're still calling Roman the original Tribal Chief. He's now got shirts that say OTC 1, or the original Tribal Chief 1, which makes no sense because original and 1 mean the same thing. So, what are we doing here? Like, if they called him Tribal Chief 1, that would have made more sense. But OTC 1 makes zero sense. But the sort of leader of the bloodline, Solo does that the best. He's more believable as a heel. He's more believable as a villain than Roman ever was. More so because Roman's heel gimmick was more just him being cowardly, where Solo is more vicious. And to me, I like the vicious heel a lot more. I like the vicious heel a hell of a lot more than I like the cowardly heel. Now, Roman played the cowardly heel great, and where Roman was better was in the facial expression, sort of selling a moment, where Solo was just, he's better at certain areas that Roman wasn't, right? Just my opinion. Other things, Rhea Ripley. How long have I been saying that Rhea Ripley's overexposed to the detriment of, no, man, that's just a you thing? But then it comes out, man, Rhea Ripley overexposed now to the casuals. She needs to disappear. Well, I've been saying that for 6 months. I've been saying that well before WrestleMania. Right? So, these casuals are they're behind. WeTooDeep always is correct, right? So, we got let's say the far right and the casuals. That extreme. We talked about them. We're about to talk about the far left in the sickos. But isn't it great that you have those two different parties, those two extremes, but I'm for the people in the middle. I told you, I got the 3 R's. We're going to keep it real. I'm not going to lie to you. I'm going to tell you the truth. I'm going to tell you my opinion. I'm going to tell it how it is. And I'm not going to make up things for clicks. I'm going to keep it raw, meaning it's going to be gritty. It's not going to sound the greatest. It's going to come out and represent who I am and what I believe in. And I'm going to keep it relevant. Because a lot of these people be saying some things that aren't relevant to the conversation. Right? And I live by those things. Real, raw, relevant. That's what we do here in the middle. That's what we do here at Slap and Me. So we've talked about the casuals, right? The flip-floppy casuals. That's what I'm going to call the casuals now, right? The flip-floppy casuals, right? Here's what I see with them, right? They don't have any actual belief system, right? They don't have any actual beliefs except for the individual thoughts in the moment that they tailor to try to get the hot take. Saying things like, WWE has no marketable faces is first off, a bad take. Because it makes no sense. You got Penta. You got Cody Rhodes. You got Jey Uso. What are you talking about? Like, these same people tried to convince me from January to April that the reason Jey Uso should win the title is because he's a marketable babyface. He's doing the same gimmick. And now he's not a marketable babyface? Flip-floppy casuals. But not only that, you got Penta, you got Cody, you got Bianca. You got Stephanie Vaquer, which I believe you could put on a t-shirt and people will buy. You got marketable baby faces, right? And I'm not here trying to, be a Cody crybaby, because I'm not. I'm not a Cody Rhodes fan. I have a take about Cody Rhodes, and we'll talk about that at the final, one of my final thoughts. But like, what I want to do here is call out bad takes, and I've been saying this, like, I'm not at war against the IWC, this fabricated war against the IWC. That's not me. I'm not even really at war with the sickos. I'm just at war with bad takes. And when you give a bad take, I'm going to call it out. Saying that WWE has zero marketable baby faces might be the dumbest thing I've ever heard on the internet. I'm just going to be completely honest with you, right? Might be the dumbest thing I've ever heard. WWE is a marketing machine. They have baby faces. But I also told you guys at the same time at the beginning of the year, probably around closer to Mania, but I told you guys, WWE was babyface heavy last year. There was a major drastic change towards baby faces last year. They're switching it up and they're going heel heavy this year. I told you this was going to happen. And that's exactly what has happened. Right? But that doesn't mean that there's no marketable baby faces. LA Knight's still marketable. Jey Uso is marketable. Penta might be the most marketable babyface you have. Right? I don't get. It's just one of those things, bro. So we talked about the flip-floppy casuals, right? Now we got to talk about the sickos. And I don't really have a nickname for them because they nickname themselves. They're the sickos, right? They're the sickos. And in addressing them, it's a whole different argument, right? It's a whole different argument, right? And I think I finally figured them out, right? I used to sit here, and watch the internet and watch the chaos unfold. And whenever someone offered, God forbid, would offer the most mildest critique of AEW, right? When anyone would offer some suggestions, some constructive criticism of AEW, just a simple, hey, the pacing was off tonight on Dynamite, or this isn't hitting the way it used to, or man, the Elite, they seem a little bit too self-indulgent on putting themselves on camera, or boom, and then boom, you have a swarm of AEW sickos in your mentions, like a wild pack of animals, typing in all caps, talking about 6-star match ratings, cage match ratings, the demo, talking about, you just don't get it, bro. It's the greatest thing ever. You just don't get it. Oh, WeTooDeep, you just don't get it, bro. And for the longest time, I sat here And I was like, nah, these guys are just delusional. That's just all it is. This is delusion. And while that is part of it, there is a grandeur of delusion. Delusion implies they don't know what they're doing. But these people, these sickos, the far left of the IWC, they know exactly what they do. They choose to ignore reality and to plug their ears and shout banger after banger. Not Sheamus. Anytime someone brings up any real, valid, constructive criticism of the company, they always talk about Swerve and Hangman and how great their feud was, and you just don't get it. But then it hit me. It was my eureka moment. Eureka! There's a reason for this. It's because they're not fans. They're converts. AEW isn't a wrestling promotion to them. It's a religion. Tony Khan is their messiah. The elite are their saints. And Wednesday Night Dynamite, that's their weekly service. And for the really dedicated, they go twice a week and they watch Dynamite and Collision. The idea of you criticizing this, man, that's sacrilege. It's like walking into a church mid-sermon and standing up at the pew saying, bro, this dude, he's really bad at public speaking. And no offense, that there's a lot of preachers who need that, because there's a lot of them who do. But that's a sidetrack. It's a different story, right? See, the whole thing to them is emotional. AEW just isn't their favorite television show. It's their salvation story. Tony Khan, man, I was on the brink of just giving up on wrestling, and Tony Khan came in and he saved me, man. A lot of these fans, a large chunk of these AEW fans, AEW came around at the perfect storm of dissatisfaction and bitterness at what WWE was failing at between the years of 2016 and 2019. And guys, listen, I've been very openly critical of 2016 to 2019 WWE's booking. Probably the worst in company history. Was just awful booking. Like I always say, AEW came and was started at the perfect moment. Right? Like, I fully acknowledge that. Right? WWE wasn't doing enough for them anymore. And I also say a lot of these fans are disestablished WCW fans who want that nostalgia of WCW, because that's all AEW is. It's the rebranding of WCW as a new company with the same fan base who was anti-Fed back in the 90s. Right? They grew, right? And so between 2016 and 2019 booking, they got tired of the 50-50 booking. Guys, guess what? I was tired of the 50-50 booking too. So, like, right, I completely understand where they're coming from, right? But then AEW came along and they whispered to these outcasts, you rebels to the game, you outcasts, you were right all along. Come and see what I got for you. It was a perfect storm. These wrestling fans felt unwanted by the wrestling establishment known as WWE. And so Tony Khan came in and said, you were right. and we got a place for you. See, AEW didn't just offer them this alternative. They offered validation. You were right to hate AEW, man. You were right to say that CM Punk was the voice of the voiceless. And you were right to believe in the Young Bucks being the best tag team in the world. And when a product affirms your deeply held belief and paints you as the smart one, the enlightened one, the one who gets it, you're going to get emotionally attached. But it stops becoming fandom at that point. And it starts to become identity. And so now, when someone critiques AEW, when someone constructively criticizes the show and says, bro, it's bad, it needs some work, it's not a debate about wrestling to them. It's an attack on who they are. Now they take it personally because you're attacking who their personality is. You're not just saying that the show was too long or the show's awful. Now you're saying that they're wrong, that their taste is bad, that the thing that gives them comfort during the hard times, it made them feel like they finally belong somewhere. That might actually be flawed. And take it from the history of every cult known to man. Cult members don't take it too kind to that kind of existential threat. That's why you can't reason with the sickos. And I want to point this out. I'm not talking about every single person who watch AEW. I'm strictly talking about the sickos. That's why you can't reason with them. That's why any logical point about storytelling and production value or overstuffed rosters or the backstage drama that no one ever wants to talk about or optics of going from 28,000 seats in Texas to 1,100 in Chicago, it always gets waved at but the matches are so good. The matches are fire, or it's better than what WWE is putting out. They always run back to WWE like it's the abusive ex that justifies every red flag AEW has. You could show them a 3-hour snooze fest. You could show them an 8-hour snooze fest full of botches, incoherent storylines, and Tony Khan announcing 12 matches for next week. Like a kid reading off his action figure collection. Look at the new toys I got, Dad. Look at the new toys I got. And they'll say, bruh, this was the best show of the year. You gotta watch it, man. It's the best show of the year. Man, Bandito put on a banger against Hechicero, and a hologram was such a banger, bro. Because they need AEW to be perfect. It has to be. Because if AEW falls short, so does their sense of belonging. And if AEW can be critiqued, then they have to wrestle with the possibility that maybe they built their identity around something fallible. And most people would rather go down swinging in their delusion than sit with that level of self-awareness. Right? But now we talk about their affinity to defend Tony Khan, right? Don't even get me started on that, right? These people will defend him like he's Moses on the mountain. You'll hear things like, he's just a passionate fan like us. But I'm sorry, when did being a passionate fan excuse completely incoherent booking and allowing just absolute chaos behind the scenes? When did that become the bar? Tony Khan books like he's playing GM mode after taking 5 Adderalls and chasing it with some Red Bull. And anytime someone calls out his booking, well, at least he listens to the fans. Yeah, and that's exactly the problem. You gave the inmates the key to the asylum. I've said this, guys, I've said this for a while. You know why you don't listen to the fans? Because the fans don't know what they want. They're flip-floppy. The sickos are just as flip-floppy as the casuals are. No one actually knows what they want anymore. That's why I say I'm very simple. I want good storytelling. That's the only thing I want. I don't care who gets pushed. I don't care who the champions are. I just want the stories to make sense. I want to be able to turn on the television and watch a TV show that makes sense, where the storylines are enthralling and keep me glued to the TV screen. Doesn't matter who the characters are. Get me invested. That's literally the only criteria I have for pro wrestling. I don't want or necessarily need to see 18-star matches in the Tokyo Dome. I just want good storytelling. That's literally my criteria. Right? The fans don't know what they want. The casuals don't know what they want. The sickos don't know what they want. I would even be willing to say a lot of people in the middle, and the other 90% in the IWC, don't know what they want. You don't listen to these people because they don't actually know what they want. 1 minute they want Kofi as champion, the next minute they don't, and they forget about him. 1 minute they want Jey Uso, the next minute they don't. 1 minute they like Jacob Fatu, but the second he starts getting the machine behind him and they start printing out t-shirts like candy, now the fans are going to turn on Jacob Fatu. I can already see it coming. Right? But these fans, these sickos, will die on a hill for him. For Tony Khan. Why? Because he gave their favorite outcasted wrestlers like Darby Allin. Darby and Orange Cassidy and Kenny Omega and Okada and Will Ospreay. Guys who probably wouldn't have made it to WWE or even been on their radar had it not been for AEW. Tony Khan gave them a home. He signed all the WWE rejects they swore were underutilized, like Ricochet and Swerve Strickland. And he lets the wrestler say bad words on TV. He doesn't censor them like the big bad Fed does. Oh, Tony lets the matches go 20 minutes with 9 finishers and no selling. And the sickos call it art. Tony Khan just didn't hire wrestlers. He rescued them. So he's not a booker. He's a savior. So of course they're going to fight against you. They're going to swarm to your comments, accusing you of being a Fed bootlicker or that you just don't get it. Right? You're trying to have an actual conversation and they're trying to protect their God. And you can't win an argument with a zealot. Because to them, it's not about truth. It's about their faith. And AEW isn't a promotion to them. It's a belief system. It's a cult. You see it in how they talk. Every week they say it's the best episode yet, man. Because no one has standards. No one has critical thinking. It's all blind loyalty. It doesn't matter how confusing the storylines get, how many people are lost in the shuffle, or how Tony Khan can't seem to let go. Excuse me. How Tony Khan can't seem to go a month without drama leaking out of the locker room. But these fans will defend it all. They'll defend AEW harder than they will defend anything in their life, including their own families. So what do you do with that? Honestly, nothing. You can't convince someone out of a religion they chose to join. You just call it like it is and let the sane people hear you. Because the AEW sickos, they're not listening. They don't want to listen. They don't want nuance. They don't want honest discussion about how a product can improve. They want worship. If you're not bowing down with them at their altar on Wednesday nights, then you're the infidel, and you must be eradicated. You're the enemy. And that's how it is. So let's move on. Now that I've talked about the casuals, and now I've talked about the sickos, and I've gone at length on that, let's talk about what we actually came here to talk about. And that was, we had some wrestling this weekend, and we're going to talk about it. Let's start with Saturday night's main event. And the first thing that I want to say from Saturday night's main event, and it's one thing only. This show was booked solely around Gunther and Goldberg. They got some other unfortunate news with Seth Rollins getting hurt, and hopefully, 100%, the casuals went into conspiracy mode of, this has to be a cover. Seth is cashing in. No, bro, he fucking tore his ACL or his Achilles or something. You saw it happen. These flip-floppy casuals who don't have actual beliefs are just as delusional as the sickos, by the way. Just got to say that. Anyway. But, hope the best for Rollins. They're definitely going to hold the line of him being Money in the Bank. I'm going to have to change my Sammy prediction. They're saying 4 to 5 months. If it depends on what it is. If it's an Achilles, I'm thinking closer to Mania, Seth being back. So realistically, you could still have Seth cash in and win the title. But if I'm booking on the spot right now, keep Gunther as champion. Have Sammy win the Rumble in Saudi. Run Sammy versus Gunther. And we're doing Heist of the Century 2.0. And just as Sami Zayn is getting ready to win the World Heavyweight Championship at WrestleMania, Seth Rollins cashes in. And that could be your story for next year. Seth and Sammy trying to get the title back, maybe winning it at a SummerSlam next year. And then, so you basically just push the story back a few months. That if I'm booking on the spot right now, that's how I would run this. But Gunther, We got to give Gunther his props. A year ago, I was saying, the top 3 in wrestling, like in ring plus everything, like the top 3 wrestlers in wrestling. I would have said Dragunov, I would have said Gunther, and I had Will Ospreay up there. Just because I 100% will give Will Ospreay this. He's a hell of an in-ring performer. And his promo ability is growing on me. I'll just be honest. The problem with Will Ospreay is he participates in the clown games like he did at All In, and allows and follows this indie style of no selling these moves that could literally kill you, or doing what they did against the Young Bucks and have a super kick party and do 20 moves with 0 selling, and everyone has to get a kick in. And no one sells a damn thing, and the monkeys in the audience are gonna clap at it, and I'm just sitting there like, bruh, no one sold anything. Why are we clapping for this? But anyway, right, and then slowly over time, some influences in the casuals was like, Gunther's not it. He's not it. He's the snooze general. Another bad take that I unfortunately allowed myself to start believing. But Gunther is that dude. And I should have rode that line. And I'm back on it. Gunther is that dude. Gunther is the best pro wrestler in the business. His promos are on point. And he is the best wrestler in the business. I've never seen Gunther have a bad match. And Gunther did a miracle. He took Bill Goldberg, who hasn't wrestled in like 7 years, and when he was wrestling 7 years ago, wasn't good. Some would say Bill Goldberg has never been good. And he got a halfway good match out of Bill Goldberg. He got a 15-minute spectacle out of Bill Goldberg. Which leads me to Goldberg. I'm sure he had no problem Monday morning, because the banks are closed on Sunday. I'm sure he had no problem Monday morning cashing that WWE check right before he went on and started trashing WWE about how I can't believe they cut my speech. I can't believe they did this, man. I'm really pissed off. And to that, I just have to second Peter Rosenberg, who spoke some common sense. You should have been squashed, Bill. The bell should have rung. You should have attempted a spear. You should have been kicked in the face or kneed in the face, and then German suplex like 3 times. Chopped in the corner like 3 times, and then power bombed, and the match was over. But they gave you 15 minutes with the greatest superstar in the world in the men's division. You got to go out against the greatest wrestler in the business today, and you're going to complain about, I'm sorry, just no. Go ahead, take that AEW money. Go have what you would say is my real retirement match. Do whatever you want to do. Like that's not going to hurt my feelings. I just think it's absolutely insane that Bill Goldberg's going to sit here and act like WWE didn't give you a proper send-off. What? Because NBC cut your time. NBC cuts everything. You had till 10 o'clock. Oh, well, they intentionally mistimed the so I couldn't get my Bill, shut the fuck up. I'm tired of I'm really you're lucky you were even allowed back. I'm just going to be honest with you, right? And you got your final match, and it wasn't perfect for you, right? It wasn't the way you wanted it to go. So now you're going to cry about it. I'm done with that's stupid, right? But here's who actually won. Here's who actually won the weekend. that would be Jelly Roll. Right? I know the rumors were coming out last week, Thursday night, Friday morning. Jelly Roll is going to be in Nashville. He's going to be on the show. He's going to be put with Big Babyface, which we find out is Randy Orton. And we were told from these sickos and these IWCs, and even some of the casuals, no one wants Jelly Roll, man. This is going to be bad. This is so stupid. There's so many good wrestlers backstage that they're gonna give a segment to Jelly Roll. How stupid. How dare they not put Carmelo Hayes, which, guys, by the way, I love Carmelo Hayes. I think they missed the mark. He was hot when he got caught up, and I'm talking about momentum. No Diddy over here. Right? He was hot when he got caught up. They should have struck while the iron was hot, but instead they let him cool off, and now he may never get that steam again, which is unfortunate because Carmelo Hayes was a very, very good talent. Very, very good. Right? But, oh, man, there's so many good talent. Like Carmelo Hayes but they're going to put, because Jelly Roll sells tickets. But also, like, the entire weekend, Jelly Roll got cheered out of the building. Biggest pops of the night, right? His music starts playing. He starts playing the song. He starts beating up Logan Paul. He just put Logan Paul through a table on, I think it was Jimmy Kimmel. He's over. This is how you sell tickets to your second biggest event of the year. This is how you sell tickets. This is what is known as marketing. This is right. Is the match going to be a 30-minute classic? No, but it's Jelly Roll and Randy Orton versus Logan Paul and Drew McIntyre. How dare they put Drew McIntyre? What else are you going to have Drew do? Should he be fighting for the title? Absolutely. But unfortunately, we have this thing called King in the Ring, where the King in the Ring winner gets the champions at SummerSlam. That's just how the booking is going to work. Should Drew McIntyre be world champion right now? I think he should be. I think he's the greatest thing on the SmackDown roster. But he's not. So you know what you're going to do? You're going to put him in a match with Randy Orton, teaming with Logan Paul, with the biggest country music star, scratch that, the biggest star in the music industry in Jelly Roll. And you're going to sell tickets with this match alone. And here's why. Because Drew McIntyre has ascended above needing a championship. Drew McIntyre is playing the role that Rhea Ripley should be playing. Just my take. Rhea Ripley should be the female Drew McIntyre, doing blood feuds, not necessarily needing to be in the title picture. But that, right? But let's go over. I do got a question. Why in the world on Saturday? I got two questions around the same thing. Why in the world, Tony Khan, would you book an 8-hour show? 10 hours if you watched. 10 hours if you watched the pre-show. But my second question is, why in the world as a fan would you watch 8 hours? You spent, I want you to think about this. If you're a normal human being who gets 8 hours of sleep, probably 2 or 3 hours to eat, you're talking about 12 hours of your day gone between eating and sleeping. It's a Saturday, so I'll give it that some of y'all don't have to work. But you have 12 other hours in the day to do anything you want, and you chose to spend 8 of them. Some of y'all chose to spend 10 of them watching AEW. This show should not have been 8 hours long. It should not have been 8. Because here's the problem. Tony Khan books as if every match on a card, he only had, 9 matches? I thought this would be a 4-hour PLE and everything would be fine. But he books every match, no matter how unnecessary it is, to be 20-plus minutes. For no reason. But the last thing I'll say about All In is everyone's acting all crazy about this finish. So first thing, y'all were correct. They're booking Hangman as champion, which is great. I'm actually happy for you because that's the best thing Tony could do. When I made my prediction for Moxley winning, I was thinking Tony had saved the title for Darby, which was the worst thing he could have done. He made the right call making Hangman champion. He did. Hangman is their number 1 superstar. Which is painful to say because I'm not the biggest Hangman fan. I still don't believe the cowboy gimmick is believable. And he does need some work in that believability in his promos. But he's probably the best thing other than MJF on the roster. And then we're going to do Hangman MJF later down, probably at All Out. That's what they're going to do. And that'll be a really good match. And so the best thing they could do is put Hangman as champion. But let's not act like you guys invented the wheel with how you did this match. You literally did WrestleMania 40, Bloodline rules. You did a different gimmick and made it a death match, but that allowed for interference. No DQ. You ran WrestleMania 40 Bloodline rules, you ran it the same way WrestleMania 40 ended. The same story. The entire story's practically the same. There's a faction holding the title hostage. We don't like them. They win all the time, and they do it in really good heel fashion. They cheat to win. They're holding the title hostage, and we have this homegrown babyface that everyone loves, and Hangman Page, Cody Rhodes, and it's literally the same exact thing. Don't act like you did something new, and no, you literally copied WWE. But what I really want to focus on in this opening thoughts is Evolution. Now, I'll be honest with you. I didn't watch Great American. I missed it because I was at work, and I never went back to go watch it. Partially because AEW was 8 hours long, and I came home, and AEW was on the television because my brother was watching it, and I was going to go watch Great American Bash, but Tony Khan made it 8 hours long, so I couldn't watch Great American Bash. And I never went back and never really cared to watch it. I heard it was really good. Right? Heard it was really good. But Evolution was the only show I really cared about. 100%. The only show I cared about last weekend. And I will tell you this. For all the crap that I give Triple H for booking the men's division, because there's no clear picture of what we're going on, Triple H can book women's wrestling. And I told you guys last week when I was predicting, I'm a huge women's wrestling fan. I think that women's wrestling is fantastic. It's the best it has ever been. Evolution, now I don't believe in 10 out of 10s, so I gave it a 9. It was about as perfect could be. Every single match hit. That doesn't mean that they were 5-star bangers, but every single match had a purpose and was executed as well as they could pull it off. With, you had the Battle Royal, and a couple things about the Battle Royal. First off, I told you it was very predictable Stephanie Vaquer was winning. Lash Legend showed out. Wavy D gonna hate this, but B-Fab showed out. She looked good. B-Fab is the future. Just join the train while we're here. We know I'm right, because this is what's gonna happen, right? B-Fab is just jobber garbage. And in 6 months, when B-Fab is winning the United States Women's Champion and putting on banger matches on PLEs, people are going to start joining the B-Fab train. And I'm going to be here by myself for the next 6 to 8 months. And then the train's going to start filling up. And I'm going to be like, oh, y'all late. I've been here. B-Fab is legit. But one thing that I did find out, and what I have decided is, outside of, let's just be honest, her fat ass, I don't see anything special in Jada Parker. I'm just going to be honest, right? The Miss Parker, like I get it. Like, she thick. But she didn't scream standout to me. First thing is, the only thing bad about this Battle Royal is, my girl Tatum was in there for a whole 2 seconds. And I am not appreciative of that, Hunter. I really wanted to see Tatum go a little bit deeper into this match. But Jada Parker, to me, back to that, just didn't seem like she had this opportunity to stand out in the way that Lash Legend did, in a way that Kalani Jordan did. And again, a lot of this is how they book the match. Like, they booked Kalani a segment for her to stand out. They booked Lash to go into the final 2 for her to stand out. And outside of being thick, Jada Parker doesn't stand out to me. And so I think she has a lot of potential, but I think a lot of the fan excitement over her is from a visual standpoint. It's from an attractiveness standpoint. She's fine. I'm not gonna lie to you, but I just, from a wrestling standpoint of, like, do I see her being WWE World Champion? And I'll be honest with you, in a division that has Stephanie Vaquer, Julia, Jordan Grace, Sol Ruka, going to be the next batch of people who run the division when the Beckys and the Baileys and the Charlottes are gone. This next wave is going to be Stephanie Vaquer, Julia, Jordan Grace, Blake Monroe, Sol Ruka, Kalani Jordan. Do I see a Jada Parker breaking through that and being champion? And I'll be honest with you, there's nothing right now that says that she can. Or, not that she can. I believe she can. I don't think she will. And that's a different question, right? There's nothing right now that separates her from the rest of the pack. And so, I'm not off of Jada Parker. I still think she has a lot of potential. But this was one of the things where, like, you have to make her feel special, which is why I felt she should have been the one that beat Stephanie Vaquer and had a championship run so that she feels marketable and special, right? That's just me, right? So, and then, like, the last thing about Evolution that I want to talk about. That ending was perfect. Because I was really dreading that main event. I knew it would be a banger, right? This is 2/3 of my match of the year redone. Rhea and Io, right? You just took Bianca out. First off, match of the night to me, and I know this is going to be crazy to some, match of the night to me was Jade versus Naomi. That was my favorite match. It wasn't the cleanest. It wasn't a 5-star classic. That was my favorite match. It was my favorite match of the night. Right? And because it set up. One, Jade gets over, But Naomi gets the shit beat out of her. Right? We don't know still really where Bianca stands. She kept it really fair. That's one thing I like about Bianca, special guest referee. She keeps it fair. Right? Jade looks strong heading into SummerSlam, where she faces Tiffany for the championship. And everyone, I was sitting here thinking, well, okay, Naomi's going to, my plan's coming to fruition. Jade looks strong going into SummerSlam. She's going to face Tiffany. The match is going to go on, and Naomi's going to cash in and beat him. And that's where I was settled. And then a few hours later, we get Rhea versus Io putting on a banger of a match. I'm not going to lie, it was a pretty good match. I did not like... I'll just be honest, something that took away the match for me was that the referee gets knocked down and they go out into the outside area and the referee apparently died and there's no other referee anywhere in the back that they could have grabbed in the next 10 minutes as they're ravishing the outside area so that they could do this spot from the top of the little crates. We couldn't find a ref in those 10 minutes to start doing the 10 count. Crazy to me. You would figure that you would have a ref on backup. But anyway. That was right. The match was fine, right? But I was dreading the result because either A, not the biggest fan of Io Sky and her title run. Triple H tends to only book one title at a time. Right? So on a brand, right? So like he's booking Tiffany, he's not really booking anything. I mean, he got Julia now as but it's not the focal of SmackDown. Whereas on Raw, Becky and her run was sort of the front runner of what he was producing heading into this PLE. Whereas Io really wasn't. There wasn't really a story there. Right? And maybe that was on purpose. But I was really dreading Io being the champion. And I was really, really, really dreading Rhea winning the title again. And then the unthinkable happens. Naomi's music hits. And she cashes in. And I'm be honest with you, it's almost been a week and I'm still trying to process this. Naomi is the champion of Monday Night Raw. And I didn't even enjoy it at the time because I was too in shock at what was going on. I'm not upset at this. I'm not. So I will say this. I don't like the cash-in because I think it would have worked better on Jade. I think there's a better story. However, Naomi's champion, and she deservedly should be. Arguably the best character in the women's division right now. Arguably. Right? So we end Sunday, and so this goes into a conversation, James and Cody had last night. Did WWE win the weekend, or did they? You know who won the weekend? WWE. Why? Because they put on a near perfect PLE with Evolution. Could things have been better? Sure, probably. But a near perfect PLE on Sunday night for the women's division. But then Monday comes on, and boy, that shit sucked. Monday Night Raw was so boring this week. It was so boring. Nothing happened. Nothing happened. At all. Nothing of interest. Until the last 4 minutes. When Roman Reigns returned. To probably the biggest pop of the year. Which leads me to my hot take on Roman Reigns. WWE needs to put the belt, back on Roman Reigns. For two reasons. It keeps him on television. Because I do agree. Oh, well, if you put the belt on him, the belt's going to disappear. No. He's a babyface now. He has to show up. WWE, and it doesn't have to be long term. WWE needs to put the belt on Roman Reigns, preferably beating John Cena. Because here's the thing. Here's a record I don't know you guys know. John Cena has never beaten Roman Reigns. I don't want him to take the belt off of Gunther. I think we have a story there with Gunther, Sami, Seth. That's a good dynamic. Keep that going. Have Roman show up on a SmackDown, challenge John Cena, have Roman beat John Cena, carry the belt the rest of the year, and have Jacob Fatu be the one to dethrone Roman Reigns. For good, have Jacob Fatu be the guy that finally dethrones and finishes Roman Reigns. That's how I would do it. And you could book this all the way through WrestleMania next year. Tell Roman, we need August, September, October, November, December, January, February, March, and April. We need 8 months out of you. We'll give you a break in January and February because that's Chamber and Rumble. We don't need you to do anything those months. We can set up your matches. We don't really need you to do much. March, we don't have anything. We'll probably need you at the Rumble in some capacity. But like Chamber, you don't need to show up at. March, there's nothing. But we really need you 6 out of the next 8 months on TV. It would be your final thing, and then you could retire. We'll have you as champion. We'll have you against Jacob Fatu, and we'll have the stipulation. And you can put a stipulation on it where if Jacob loses, he can never challenge for the title while Roman's still champion. And if Roman loses, Roman has to retire. And I think we could close it at that. Right? I'm happy Roman's back. They need to put the title on him. He's the hottest wrestler on the planet right now. Just he got the biggest pop of the year. He had the biggest pop of the weekend. If you were to include Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday, those 4 days that there was AEW or WWE wrestling on TV, Roman Reigns got the biggest pop of those 4 days. Give him the belt. The Cena run doesn't work. I've been saying the last 18 months since Roman Reigns has lost the title have been pretty bad on SmackDown in the World Championship picture. Just pretty bad. Put the belt back on Roman. Until you can put it on a guy that can carry the belt and the fans will get behind, and Jacob Fatu. That's where I would lead this. 100% where I would lead this. But with that, let's predict Slammiversary. If we're going into this understanding I haven't watched any TNA TV in God knows how long. God knows how long. So we'll start with the match that's brand new. There's now an 8th match to the card. That is NXT's Dark State. Dion Lennox, Osiris Griffin, Shaquan Sugars, Cutler James. Versus The System. Brian Myers, Eddie Edwards, JDC. That's Fandango for those who don't watch TNA. And Matt Cardona. Um, um, I'm going Dark State here. I think they need a big win, and this is a very big um this is a very big opportunity. It's TNA's biggest show of the year. I don't know, would you call this their Mania or would you call Bound for Glory their Mania? I think Slammiversary's their Mania. And Bound for Glory's more like their SummerSlam-ish. But I would say Slammiversary's their Mania, in my opinion. Now, I'm not a TNA apologist. I don't know their history, so I could be wrong. But I would consider this their Mania, their biggest show. And so this is a big moment. This is a big stage for Dark State. And so this match, by the way, if you're in my pick'em in the Discord, I need y'all. First off, Cody, if you're going to participate, I need your picks. I know you're going to give them to me today. And I need this 8th match predicted. So let's move on. And pick the other 7 matches that I already sort of planned for. I'm picking Dark State, by the way, if you didn't catch that. Masha Slamovic within her corner, Ying. Excuse me, let me say that right. Lei Ying Lee. That's Xia Li from WWE, if you remember her. And Xia Brookside. Those are going to be in Masha Slamovic's corner. Versus JC Jane with Fallon and Jasmine in their corner. Or in her corner. In a winner-takes-all match. Champion versus champion. Winner takes all. So the question is, really being told here, is who's willing to give up their title? Now, B-Master had a very, very interesting pick in that he predicted a double disqualification or some sort of non-finish. He said double DQ, so that's what I'm going to hold him to, where neither of them officially win. And that this is just an opportunity to showcase both champions. And while I like the booking, I'm going to disagree. I'm picking Masha. I'm picking Masha Slamovic to win. And I think that's going to lead to her being on NXT TV a little bit more. And I can't see JC Jane being a double champion. Actually, I can. I'll be honest with you. Right. I have Masha written down right now. But here's what I'm going to do. I'm actually going to change my pick. I'm picking JC Jane. Officially. I'm officially picking JC Jane. Here's why. When JC Jane loses the NXT Championship to Brooke, I always want to call her Brooke, to Blake Monroe, which I think officially will happen at Heatwave on August 24th. JC Jane will still be TNA champion. And I think she can then go over and work with TNA until TNA can get their belt back. I'm picking JC Jane officially to win this match. We have the Elegance brand, which is Ash by Elegance and Heather by Elegance with M by Elegance in her corner, in their corners, versus the Inspiration, or better known to WWE fans, and I always say their WWE gimmick because I'm assuming a lot of people don't watch indie wrestling, right? The Iconics, the Inspiration, Cassie Lee, Jessica McKay, for the TNA Knockouts World Tag Team Champions. I'm going the Inspiration here. And here's what I think happens. Inspiration win. And I think eventually they have a run-in with Raquel and Roxanne. And maybe eventually we'll get a match. But, champion for the women's tag teams. Eventually, I think we can get down that. That's why I kind of wish they would have had Sol and Zarya win, so we could bring the NXT, or bring to NXT the women's tag team champions. But I'm going Inspiration here. We have a singles match between Mustafa Ali and Cedric Alexander. I know there's a little bit of history with Cedric, I guess, took Mustafa's group or something. I don't know all the history. I'm sure TNA will fill you in on Sunday. So, do not tune in because you don't know what's going on, right? First off, TNA has all their stuff on YouTube, like clips and everything. Go check that out if you need to. But I also think they're going to show you, they're going to do what AEW always refuses to do and, promo you into what's going on with each match. But I don't even care about the story on this one. To be honest, I'm picking Cedric Alexander solely because he's a North Carolina boy, and I'm from North Carolina. I live in North Carolina, right? So I'm going Cedric. Cedric is one of my dudes. I love this dude. He's one of my favorite wrestlers that I fell in love with on the indie scene locally. He made it to WWE. I don't think he was necessarily used correctly. I'm not going to complain about it because he was in a weird division where he was in the cruiserweights, but then they took the cruiserweights away, and he really didn't fit anywhere else on the roster. But Cedric Alexander. We have Tessa Blanchard versus Indy Hartwell. Tessa Blanchard, I do believe, will win this match. We have a 4-way tag team championship ladder match for the TNA World Tag Team Champions between the Nimitz, that's Nick and Ryan Nemeth, who are the current champions, by the way, the Hardys, Jeff and Matt, the Rascals, and probably the unlikely to win via ladder First Class, AJ Francis or Top Dollar versus Casey Navarro. Excuse me. I think First Class is winning. For the very likely, I think First Class will win this, 100%. We have Moose and Leon Slater for the X Division Championship. I'm going Leon Slater. I am. I'm going Leon Slater winning this match. And I don't really have a reason. I just think I think they're going to make the X Division, title go back to a guy who sort of fits the X Division kind of thing, right? I mean, there's no weight class in it, but, it's typically for the smaller, more flippier dudes. And so I'm going Leon Slater. Big moment for him there. And then we're going to have our main event between Trick Williams, Joe Hendry, and Mike Santana. Triple threat for the TNA World Championship. We're in New York. I've been saying this from the get-go. Once Trick won the title, I've been on this train. Santana has to. My prediction is Santana, but Santana has to win this title. he would become one of, if not the biggest babyface in TNA. If he wins, just imagine the visuals of Santana from New York City, in New York, winning the championship. Santana would be absolutely huge in that company. There's teasings of AJ Styles showing up. There's teasings of Enzo Amore showing up. There's teasers of Enzo said he was bringing Zilla Fatu and a Bishop, which many think are going to be Baron Corbin. He's going by Bishop Dyer now, right? Yeah. So many think Bishop Dyer, Baron Corbin, could show up. That'd be interesting. Be very interesting indeed. But there's our predictions for Slammiversary. Not a lot of in-depth. Again, I don't follow the company. I really hope they get a TV deal here soon so that I can follow the company and follow the stories and all of that. But with that, let's go to our Deep 5. Top 5 women in pro wrestling today. Now, these are not in any order at all. We'll start with Stephanie Vaquer. Y'all knew this was coming. She's the future of the women's division in WWE right now. At least the short-term future is Stephanie Vaquer. Fantastic. Her English is better than a lot of people give her credit for. Her English is better than a lot of people give her credit for. Right? She draws fans. She has a big fan following. She is the next big thing in the women's division. Next on the list is Naomi. Like I said, probably the best gimmick in the women's division. Probably, could I say, in all of wrestling, Naomi. Like, Naomi, to me, is better than Mercedes, right? You compare the two. They both left at the same time. A lot of people thought wherever Mercedes went, Trinity would follow. Naomi goes to TNA, rebrands herself with the goal of getting back to WWE, does just that, now is champion. This run feels a lot more believable than the last title run Naomi had in 2017. I think that was the last one Naomi had. This one feels a lot more believable because there's a character that people care about. Naomi is a top 5 women's wrestler right now. Right? PWI, Meltzer, none of these guys are going to change that. Right? Next on the list is Sol Ruca, who I believe is the actual long-term future of the business. Sol Ruca, with zero indie training, former athlete, comes in from the PC, NIL type stuff, right? I don't think she was NIL, but she came in through the PC on a tryout. And former Oregon gymnast, just fantastic athlete, comes in, picks this thing up like it's nobody's business. Has one of the craziest and most awesome finishers in wrestling with the Soul Snatcher. And she can talk. Promo skills probably need a little bit of work, but she can talk. She can play a gimmick. She's wildly attractive. She's good in the ring. She's everything. She checks off all the boxes, right? To be the future of the business. Now, those are the bottom 3, and you could put those in any order from 3, 4, and 5. Just be honest with you. And if I had to do it, it would probably be 3 being Stephanie Vaquer, 4 being Naomi, 5 being Sol Ruca. The last 2 that I talk about are 1 and 2. With this one, number 2, the number 2 best woman in wrestling right now as much as it's crazy for me to say, is Becky Lynch. So here's the thing about Becky. First off, I like Petty Becky. Petty Becky, who's going to play into this Becky Hogan gimmick. I'm not Becky Hogan, I'm Becky fucking Lynch. I love that. Like, that made me so much more interested in this heel Becky. A lot more than anything else that have been said in the ring on her promos, right? I'm not the biggest fan of this current gimmick. But we have to be honest. Becky Lynch has spent the last 2 years doing what every veteran in the business should do on their way out. Because Becky understands. She's a mom now. She's advancing in age. She doesn't have much left to give the business as far as time. I think within the next 5 years, her and Rollins are done. At least in ring. Right? They're going to go off and live their life. Maybe be agents, maybe be, on Legends deals and ambassadors. Sure. But the last 2 years, Becky Lynch has done nothing but put over the up-and-comers. Does that mean she has to win championships she probably shouldn't have won? Sure. Should she have won the NXT championship? Probably not. But there was a purpose for it. In the immediate, you put over Tiffany Stratton. You also put over Roxanne Perez a little bit in that. Right? And more importantly, over the last year and a half, she has put over Lyra Valkyria. Right? We talk about the rise of Lyra. Lyra's like 6th or 7th on this list, by the way. She would make a top 10 if I wanted to do a deep 10, but it's a deep 5. Lyra Valkyria is only in the position she's at in this company right now because of Becky Lynch. And it's not that Lyra couldn't have worked her. Lyra's a talent. She has talent. She works her ass off. But there's a little known thing in the business world, no matter what industry you're in. If you know somebody and you have some good references, you're probably going to make it to the top. And there's no better reference in pro wrestling and WWE than Becky Lynch. And Lyra Valkyria is like, why do you think Gunther's highly booked? Does Triple H like him? Sure. But I'm sure that Undertaker and Goldberg and other legends who I've heard backstage are super high on Gunther and think he's the future of the business. That's why Gunther's being pushed. If Gunther was still a fat fuck, right? If Gunther was still a fat fuck who didn't lose all this weight and didn't put in work, he wouldn't be here. But Gunther put in work to be the future of the business, right? And Becky Lynch is putting in work to put over the future of the business. Something Mercedes Moné should probably learn to do. So when you ask me why I think Becky Lynch is better than Mercedes, Mercedes is number 4 to me for 2 reasons. She doesn't know how to put anybody over, is the number 1 reason. And 2, she's too full of herself. I still think Bayley's number 1. I think Becky's number 2 of the 4 horsewomen. I think Charlotte's number 3. And then there's a large gap before you get to, right? Because everyone judges that and says Sasha Banks, Mercedes Moné is the greatest, and they only judge the in-ring ability. And guess what? In-ring, she's probably the best. But she fails at the promos, and she fails at what I find very important, and that's putting people over when it needs to be done. And all 4 of them are at a point in their lives where they should be putting over younger talent, and Mercedes consistently puts people under the ground. She buries them, right? Excuse me. And then number 1, and this is going to be weird to a lot of y'all. Well, you already said Stephanie. You said Lyra's not in the top 5. Who? No, number 1 is, it's going to be awkward for me to say because I've done a lot of of trashing this person over the last 6 months. But the best woman in pro wrestling is Rhea Ripley. The best woman in pro wrestling today is Rhea Ripley. And this is where you need to hear me out. My complaint with Rhea Ripley has never been her in-ring work. It's never been her promo ability. It's never been her ability to connect with the fans. That's never been my critique. My critique with Rhea Ripley has always been her booking. And a little bit of her aesthetic. I think the aesthetic really takes me away from Rhea. Right? But Rhea's an attractive young woman. Right? And she's over with the crowd. And she's probably the best in-ring worker in the business right now. She's the common denominator in having the best match at WrestleMania and probably the best match in-ring ability-wise. And the best PLE of the... I think Evolution was the best PLE of the year. 100%. My complaint has always been she's too deep into the title picture when she's ascended past it. And that's going to be a hard thing for her career because she's in her early 20s and she's already at a place where she's ascended higher than the title where she doesn't need it. But she has 15 more years in this business, if not more, where she's going to be in the title picture. It's going to be a hard thing to balance that, right? But Rhea Ripley's the best woman in pro wrestling. Bianca's, again, would be in the top 10. Jade would be in the top 10, right? If we're talking like 6th, 7th, 8th, that's Lyra, Jade, Bianca. Liv Morgan's on the list somewhere, right? And then we'll figure out a number 10, right? But Rhea Ripley, Becky Lynch, Stephanie Vaquer, Naomi Solruka. There's your top 5. Right, there's your D5. Let's transition. We're going to have about 2 weeks off with no questions from the Discord, so I wanted to answer some. We only have 2, which is wonderful. They're really good questions, so we can go in depth with these. Will wrestling as a whole ever stop separating the gender titles and just call it the IC title or the world title? So I have 2 responses to this. And I lied. I got 3 questions, not 2. I got 2 responses to this question. The first one is the business side of the question, and that's no. Well, you say wrestling as a whole. I don't think they will, because a lot of the business follows WWE, and I don't think WWE ever will. But my real answer is, why do you want them to? I don't get this aesthetic of wanting men and women to wrestle each other. I don't get the aesthetic. I just don't understand why that's something that wrestling fans want to see. I don't think there's a reason for it. I don't think there's a reason to hate that the rosters are separated by biological gender. For the most part, unless you're AEW, and then you separate them just by identity. That's going to be the statement of this entire podcast. Hour 40 minutes put in. That's going to be the only thing people take from this podcast. But I keep it real, raw, and relevant. I don't see a reason why we need to. I'm just going to be honest with you. I don't want them to. I hope that they don't. I'm sure some company out there, to be honest with you, a lot of wrestling promotions on the indies, a lot of the unknown indie scene, they don't have a women's division, and so when they bring in women's wrestlers, they fight them in. If that's something you want to do, keep it on the indie scene. I don't think a WWE should, or an AEW, or a TNA. I just don't see a reason for them to do that. Next question. And really the next two questions sort of are on the same topic. Do you believe that AEW is a good place to work given how many people keep getting injured there? And the second thing is, I don't want to complain about injuries in AEW because WWE is going through an injury bug itself. But I think WWE is doing a lot more to protect people from unnecessary injuries, right? So like Seth Rollins' injury was his leg gave out, and there was nothing really WWE could have done. Whereas, and this really relies or paints around Adam Cole, because that's where the next question's at. Who's responsible for Adam Cole's concussion? Is it Adam Cole for not protecting himself, or Kyle Fletcher for not performing the move correctly or safely? Or is it AEW for not having strict rules for people with prior concussions? That's Kara's question. Kara, I'm going to get back to that because that's a really in-deep question. But I'll get back to answering that in a second. Do I believe AEW is a good place to work for? Absolutely. I think injuries happen. It's part of the sport. It's part of the industry. Do I think AEW should have a more strict policy on injuries? And yeah, absolutely. But I don't know the best. So here's the thing with this. This could be a trick question. B-Master didn't mean it in a trick. He meant it great. But one of these sickos or someone like James will hear my answer and use this as a trick. Right? I don't know the backstage and what was going on. And did Adam Cole get tested? And did he pass concussion tests? And I don't know all of that. Right? And so I can't say, like, I can't say that the workplace is bad because people get injured. I can't imagine that it's a bad, like, I think with all the crazy things I have against Tony Khan's booking, I think he legitimately cares about his employees or his wrestlers, right? And so I'm not going to sit here and be like, oh, it's a bad place to work for, right? Now to Kara's question. Who's responsible for Adam Cole's concussion? Is it Adam Cole? Is it Kyle Fletcher? Or is it AEW? And I like that you included AEW. Because, so here's the first thing. I'm going to completely throw Kyle Fletcher out of the picture. I don't see Kyle Fletcher performing this move wrong. I looked at it several times. I don't think Kyle Fletcher did the move wrong. And I know that might be a hot take for my audience, because I know Wavy D was, I believe, saw that in the Discord that he was saying it was Kyle Fletcher's fault. I don't think it was Kyle Fletcher's fault, right? On this move. But go back to May, about a month and a half ago, when Adam Cole gets what was supposed to be like what Kevin Owens used to do on the apron. And instead of having Cole's back hit the apron, his head did. I will blame Kyle Fletcher for that. But I don't necessarily think the move that everyone's blaming the concussion on, what was it? It was the Thursday before All In, last Thursday, and there was a clothesline. I don't necessarily think it was Kyle Fletcher's fault. I'm just going to be honest with you. So is it Adam Cole's fault? I don't think it was Adam Cole's fault either. I don't. Can I be honest? And this seems like a cop-out. This is AEW's fault. And I don't even necessarily think it was not for strict rules. I think they did testing. I'm not going to make the AEW out as some nefarious dude. But I think this is AEW's fault for putting Adam Cole, who's had 2 concussions since coming back to AEW. And he's been in AEW for what? 3-4 years? He's had now 3 concussions in 4 years in AEW. Who knows how many concussions before then? And putting him in a situation where he continues to get hurt. I know they've been trying him on commentary. I think this is a situation where it was just, I don't know. I'm going to blame AEW. I am. I think everyone's a little bit to blame. I'm going to be honest with you. But part of me really just, the conversation of trying to find who's to blame takes away from the conversation that Adam Cole's career is probably over. And part of me can't help but think. What if Adam Cole just listened to Vince and was a manager for a few years on the main roster? And we'll put you in some storylines where you can wrestle every now and then. But we'll run you in a Sami Zayn type gimmick where Sami Zayn was in the Bloodline and he was partially a manager for Roman, but he got to wrestle every now and then. We don't know how that would have turned out, but that's going to be a what if. Right? I just always wonder, like, what would have happened if that happened? Right? That's right there beside, what if Keith Lee stayed in WWE, took his job seriously, and lost the weight Vince told him to lose? That's another what if that I have. But I just, yeah. That's the conversation I think we really need to have. Is Adam Cole's career is probably over. At least his in-ring career. Right? I think that's where we need to focus the conversation. Who cares who's to blame? I think AEW's to blame. I think Kyle Fletcher has botched some moves. Botched a move a couple months ago. Maybe botched the clothesline. I don't think the clothesline was done wrong. Right? I don't know. I don't think there's any one singular person to blame. And I don't think that's where the conversation should be. Right? So let's get to our final thoughts. And we got 3 of them. And so, over the last week or so, Sean Ross Sapp, who I'm hoping someone sends this to him. Please, someone send this to him. Then maybe he can unblock me on Twitter so he can get into my DMs. You send him my tag. Tag him in a post. Tell him so-and-so is talking about you. Because bro can't stand that. And he'll be up in my DMs at 12 a.m. fresh off a line of cocaine. But Sean Ross Sapp and JD from NY apparently have been going, and I don't say apparently, they have been going back and forth against each other for the most childish of reasons, because Sean Ross Sapp doesn't like getting called out on his bullshit ever. But here's where I stand on this, right? Now, I don't like Sean Ross Sapp. I'll be honest. I don't like Sean Ross Sapp. I'll just be honest. And JD I can tolerate. JD I can tolerate. But when we really look at it, they're the same person. JD can't take criticism either. JD also has blocked me for criticizing his opinions. JD can't take criticism just as much as SRS can't take criticism. The difference is JD's not in people's DMs calling them names and then blocking them after he gets his rage-filled DMs in. JD's not doing that. JD's also not trying to claim himself to be some sort of journalist. JD's very clear that what he says are his opinions, and if you choose to listen to his show, you're choosing to listen to his opinions. Where that differs is Sean Ross Sapp claims to be a journalist, and there's a professionalism that's required in journalism, right? So I'm not a journalist. I do opinion piece, right? And so I don't have to be as professional as if I worked for the Washington Times and I'm putting out a piece on WWE. There's a level of professionality that needs to happen there. But because I just do an opinionated podcast, I don't have to be as professional, right? So JD doesn't have to be as professional as Sean Ross Sapp should be, because Sean Ross Sapp is claiming to be part of the press. Now, let's just face it, wrestling journalism is not journalism. Everyone's just doing opinion pieces, and there's guys like Meltzer and Alvarez and Sean Ross Sapp and the rest of the Fightful nerds who think that they have a little bit of oomph in the game because they have sources in the companies that can give them information, even though WWE's feeding bad information. I'm telling you they are. That's the number one secret in warfare, guys. I had someone tell me, I'm not going to list names or anything. They're not in the military anymore. They're former military from like the 70s and 80s, right? Who had told me like one of the things that they did, the government, it does in time of war, is they purposely feed false information to the media because they know the media is going to eat it up and they're going to spread it. Guys, they're still doing that today. Like, that's, first off, that's not like a hot take, right? So if they're doing that there, I'm 100% certain. One of the things in war is you control the narrative. Well, WWE gets to control the narrative because they're the big dog. So WWE is putting out false information on purpose, knowing that the wrestling media will eat it up, spread it, and now that's how misinformation. But it's intentional, so that what actually happens isn't known. I'm telling you, WWE is selling these guys false information on purpose. But they're the same guy. JD and Sean Ross Sapp are the same online grifter. They're the same person. So it's funny to see them argue. It's funny to see them fight. It's funny to see them both hurl insults at each other. It's just hilarious. It's just hilarious because they're the same person. Next, we're going to move from wrestling for just a minute. I have to talk about this. I think I have found the best movie of 2025. And that is Superman. And here's why. Superman is about as perfect of a movie that you can make, in my opinion. Again, opinionated. This movie, first off, for someone like me who isn't a comic book fan, I've never read the comic books. I do, however, respect anyone who makes a movie that's similar to the source material. I'll also say this. I've never watched any of Zack Snyder's movies on Superman. I never watched, Spider-Man versus Batman versus Spider-Man. I'm a dumbass. Never watched Batman versus Superman or Man of Steel. I've never watched any of those. Partially because the trailers just seem dark to me, and like that's the thing that really drew me away from those movies was that Zack Snyder tried to make Superman realistic. His style was, what if Superman was actually real and wasn't a story? James Gunn took the source material and he did a lot of homages to Smallville and the comics and a lot of other things, right? In the story. So this movie was just perfect, right? And I could really rarely find anything that I didn't like about it. And there was so much critique going in about this as a political movie. Zero politics involved in it. Outside of like what was needed for the story plot, but there was no propaganda in this movie at all. If anything, this wasn't a woke movie like the far right tried to claim. If anything, it was very based. The story, without giving away spoilers, because I don't want to spoil it for anyone, but the plot line is essentially an alien from Krypton comes to Earth, assimilates to being human, not an alien, and wants to be the best human he could possibly be. If that's not a based message, then I don't know what the fuck is. Right? I don't know actors' names at all. The actor they got to play Superman played it perfect. The actor they got to play Lois Lane, again, perfect. Their chemistry was perfect. Green Lantern was like the comic relief that you needed from the seriousness of some of the plot was great. You could argue that that the best character in the movie was Mr. Terrific. And I'm not going to go into more details again, not to give it away anything. But the best hero in the movie was Mr. Terrific. I'm going to say this. The best character portrayal in this movie was Lex Luthor. First off, again, I don't know the source material. I don't know the comics. But I've listened to a lot of people who grew up on the comics and have read the comics. And I'm being told this is the most accurate source material portrayal of Lex Luthor, as close as it's ever been to the comics. Which makes sense to me, right? And I loved this character, right? Because he wasn't the cowardly heel. He was the villain. The same thing that I said about Solo Sokoa, right? Well, this portrayal of Lex Luthor was perfect. Brutal villainy based out of jealousy. And it wasn't just some dude who sort of like was a background kid. Like, he was the focal point of the movie. And here's why. For Superman to mean anything, you need a villain. Your villain is your most important story in a superhero movie. If you have zero care in the world about who your villain is, the superhero means nothing. So why I love this movie the greatest, I think it's the movie of the year, is because it is a storyline driven with some great acting performances. But it told a story. And it didn't rely too much on Superman being a superhero. Because, and having all of the, like, yes, he has powers. He can, he has the breath and the lasers, but it didn't rely on all that. They were used, but they didn't make Superman feel unbeatable. In fact, they made him feel very weak. Because the thing that makes Superman super isn't really his powers. It's his heart. It's that he wants to do everything he can to save every single human being. And not just humans, but the squirrels, right? He wants. That is what makes Superman super. But the message of this movie is that we all struggle. But that's what it means to be human. And Superman may not be human, but he assimilated to what it is to be human. Like this is a message of hope. This is a good message, and everyone right? I highly recommend you guys go watch it. Really, really good movie. Has a lot of replay value as well. Like, I'm not a guy who likes to replay movies after I've seen it. I'm not going to go to the theater 14 times. But I would have, if I really wanted to, I would go and see this movie again. And then finally, the final thought of this pod. I said I had to take about Cody Rhodes, and I do. I believe that Cody Rhodes, everyone, I did that segment how everyone in the sickos thinks that Tony Khan is the quote-unquote savior of pro wrestling, that if Tony Khan never started AEW, that wrestling would be ruined. Can I go back a little bit, though? I think, because I do think that there's a little bit of truth that there is a savior of pro wrestling. I think Vince McMahon, the way he was booking from 2016 to 2019, would have killed the business. They were losing the audience right and left. There was zero interest outside of wrestling fans, and Vince did very little to try to get any mainstream appeal. During this time. But AEW doesn't start without Cody Rhodes. AEW doesn't start without Cody Rhodes getting released. And Cody Rhodes could have just sort of faded away, but instead he makes one post on social media. And I remember seeing this the day he gets released. It was like 2015, 2016, right? And he puts out this post of a list of wrestlers that he wants to wrestle when he's able to on the indies. Right? And Cody Rhodes goes on and becomes the biggest name in indie wrestling. He does the first ever All Out. Or was it All In? It was All In, right? The first show, not AEW, but that was the first ever All In. He does it, and he pulls in like 10,000 tickets sold, and I think it's like 150,000 buy rate, which is great for an independent promoted show on a pay-per-view level event. Very good numbers, right? And then AEW's born. Let's not take away the fact that Cody Rhodes is the reason AEW even started. He was the cornerstone of that process. The Elite, the Kenny Omega, the Young Bucks, the Bullet Club, none of that makes it the hot topic without Cody Rhodes. I thoroughly believe that. Cody Rhodes, if we're going to claim savior status, which I think is dangerous to do in the first place, Cody Rhodes is the reason the business is where it's at today. We have to give Cody Rhodes his props. Because without Cody Rhodes putting out the list and going full flesh to try to build his brand in the indie scene, I don't think we have wrestling the way we have it today. I thoroughly do not believe we will. So as much as I don't like Cody's character or Cody's wrestling, I do like him as a, I do have to give him props where props is due. And I do believe props are due in that area. So with that said, thank y'all for watching, listening to this podcast. My name is WeTooDeep. I hope you all enjoyed everything. Let me know what you think in the comments on Spotify. If you're listening to this on YouTube as well, like, share, subscribe. Share this with all your friends. Links to our affiliate pages in the description. Join the Discord. That's the best way you can join the conversation. And until then, I will see you on August 1st in 2 weeks when we predict SummerSlam.
So hit that subscribe, come along for the ride. AEW, WWE, we're always on side. From fantasy booking to baddies that slay. Slap and meet wrestling every Tuesday.